So it's kind of late in the season, but I found this really good deal. I picked up these 2 jet skis plus this double trailer for $800. I didn't get much of a story behind it. It was one of those things where the guy had just posted it 10 minutes before I saw it, and I was like, I want them, I'm coming down, and that's it. So these are a 97 Sea-Doo XP, and I've had a bunch of XPs before, and I really love them, especially the older ones, because they're lighter and smaller, and they're just all around a good jet ski. I've had a 94, a 95, and a 96, and I still have the 94. And I absolutely love those jet skis compared to the newer ones, which are huge, bulky, and heavy. These things are really sporty. The only thing the guy said was that one ran, but he didn't winterize it, which you're supposed to empty out before the end of the season. And then the other one, he said he never got to run. It didn't have any spark, so it could be something stupid like ignition related. So let's just get right into these and see what's going on. I don't even know which one ran and which one didn't. I have no idea. Let's just sort of dive in. So one thing that happens on these jet skis quite a bit, especially on this 97 model, is there's the computer right there. It's underneath the nose, and I guess it takes on a lot of water when you're starting and stopping. I think maybe coming in from here or something. So sometimes the connectors get corroded. I'm gonna check that. First thing, I'm not getting power to the white wire on the coil, and I'm actually getting ground there, so I gotta investigate a little bit further. Yeah, look at that. It's all corroded right there. And then the pins are kind of corroded. I'm gonna put some dielectric grease on there, slide it in and out a bunch of times. Also, I'm not sure if this has anything to do with it, but it might have corroded pins on it too. Yeah, it does. Look at that. Okay, so I found that the pins on this connector here, for this, are loose. So I'm going to take that out and kind of repin it. So it doesn't show up on camera, because it's hard to see the spark coming off this spark tester. But we do have spark now, so that's really good. I'm sure this thing will start now. So I really think that the issue was the plug right here. And by putting that electrical grease on there and working it back and forth a bunch of times, now we have spark. I don't think there's any other thing that I did that would make a difference as far as the spark goes. So that very well could have been the problem the whole time. I almost think that this one is the one that was working though. So I'm still not sure whether this one was the one with bad spark or that one. We'll see once we get into that one in a few minutes. If this was the one that was working, then apparently it stopped working, because I definitely didn't have any spark at first. And if that's the case, then I may have more problems, because the guy said that it leaked water because he didn't winterize it. So I have no idea what that means. He had no idea what that means. He just had somebody look at it, and that's what they said. So once we get both of these running, I'll take them over to where I have a hose and hook them up to a hose, and then that way we can test them out to see if anything is leaking without putting them on the water. Well, that's awesome. So it runs, and I pretty much knew as soon as I got spark it would run. These things are set up pretty good with the fuel system. That is awesome. So let's get going on this one, see if we can get this one going, and then we'll test them both out with a hose before I put them on the water. Oh, okay. Well, that might explain that. That plug's not even plugged in. And actually, look at how much corrosion is on those pins there. And it's like missing a little plastic piece. It's in there. Look at how much corrosion is in there. I almost think that this is the one that he thought didn't work, because this is also out right now. It's unplugged. So yeah, that would explain why we have nothing right now. Yeah, so that wasn't even connected. You can see all the corrosion around it too. So this should be like that. Okay, that feels pretty good. But man, there's a lot of corrosion in there. I'm just gonna fill these up with electrical grease and then we're gonna work it a lot. Okay. Spark plugs are loose. Let's see if this thing will even turn over. Okay. So let's see if we can get this to turn over. Okay. No spark though. You know, there's no buzzer on this thing either, so I don't know what the computer is telling me right now. Because usually when you put this in here, it'll tell you by beeping what's going on. Okay, so I messed around with that plug for a while. I kept putting it in and out, and eventually I started actually getting some response from this. Now when I put in the DESS, it is beeping twice, which means the computer says it's ready to fire. So I don't know, let's see if this thing will start. I still don't know which one of these the guy said didn't work, but I guess we'll find out. Well, I guess we got them both running. That's good. They both start up. I've actually started this one a bunch of times, and I started that one a bunch of times. It starts all on its own. I don't know. It seems too good to be true, though. It starts right up. The gas gauge doesn't appear to work unless it's completely empty. And this one, the trim doesn't work, the VTS. So the trim makes it so that if you're going through some waves, you can keep the front end down. And if you're trying to play around and have some fun, you can put the front end up. The impeller has a little trim piece that goes up and down. This one, it works. That one, it doesn't. I'm not so worried about that right now, though. I think at this point, both of these are ready to hook up to a hose and test them out. So at this point, we know both of these skis run. So we know we don't have like crazy engine problems anyways, but there is a few issues that I need to work out. So on this ski, this one is not charging the battery, and it's draining the battery very fast, even when you don't have the lanyard in. So I did a little digging, and this right here is the voltage regulator. And by unplugging one of the harnesses, because there's two of them that go into it, that stops draining the battery. So I know I need to replace that. That's a really easy job. But also, because it's not charging, I need to replace the stator inside of here. So just to give you an idea of what's going on here, the oil pump is right back here, and so these are the oil injection lines, which also need to be replaced because this is not getting any oil right now. So the oil made its way up to right here, and then these oil lines are like chewed up, they're cracked all over the place. Luckily you can see through them so that I can see that it's not getting oil. So when I was running it before, this engine was not getting any oil, and this is a two-stroke, it needs oil. So hopefully I didn't do too much damage to it. I didn't run it a whole lot, so I'm not going to run it anymore until we get that fixed. We also need to prime the system because the oil takes a long time to go from there all the way into the cylinders. But this plug right here is for the stator, and inside of there is a stator, and it's kind of like an alternator in a way. So these are the two parts that we're going to be replacing. This is the voltage regulator, and this is a stator. So we'll go ahead and do the hard one first. That's the way I like to work things. It's never easy working in these machines, but you shouldn't be too intimidated by it either. It's mainly just about getting access to things. So in other words, I could take that cover off the way it is right now, but I could also just take this off, and then it would be a lot easier. And the cover has the motor mount bracket built into it, so you have to take that out. You also have to take the motor mount out because this case cover won't come out without taking that whole motor mount out. So that's kind of a pain, but kind of is what it is. Looks like I gotta remove this motor mount before I can get to the bottom bolt. There's one bolt on the bottom of this cover that you can't get to. It's behind this motor mount, so I gotta pull this first. Okay. So there's like this little kind of rubber neoprene type deal that has like a slot in it, see? And so that turns a little keyway right here, which turns your oil pump. But yeah, here's the stator right here. And I guess this is the trigger right here, which I guess they said the bracket for it goes bad sometimes. That stator doesn't look too bad. I almost wonder if I didn't run it for a while that it would start working. But I'm here now, so I'm gonna just fix it. I'm sure any of you guys that ride snowmobiles, that ride skidoos or however you want to say it, you're recognizing a lot of this stuff because it's pretty much the same. They're the same engines. A lot of this stuff is the same. These Rotax engines are a really nice, desirable engine. They're pretty reliable too. That's why I've really stuck by Sea-Doo. I'm used to them, and they've always been pretty good to me. I haven't owned a whole lot of them, but I had a Kawasaki and a Polaris, and I was not happy with either one of them. I just don't see that being bad. Okay, so after doing a little research, I figured out that the old stator is probably not bad. I tested it to the best of my abilities, and as far as I can see, it should be good. It didn't look bad, but I just always assumed that if it wasn't charging, it would be the stator. I thought if it was overcharging, that it would be the rectifier, but the rectifier could also be the problem with it not charging. And I needed to replace this anyways because this was making the battery drain. As soon as I unplugged this, it wouldn't drain anymore. I'm assuming that that was the problem. So I ended up putting the old stator back in, and actually the reason why I even did that was because normally the stator would come with the trigger and they're together in the same harness, and this one only has the stator in the harness, which I could have spliced the wires in, but I just figured, let's test the old one and make sure it works, and it, as far as I know, it does. So I just ended up putting a new voltage regulator in there, but you guys didn't need to see that. It was just 2 bolts and just plugging in a couple harnesses. So I just put everything back together. I just need to put this tube here back on, and then I can test this out to see if it actually is charging now. The hose up to it, checking for leaks. Alright, so this jet ski has a problem where it's leaking water and exhaust on the other side of the motor. So you can see all this exhaust. I just started it and it's just pouring exhaust into here. It's somewhere behind the engine over here. It's actually really hard to get to. I can't exactly tell what it is. I've dealt with a lot of leaks on these machines before, and I don't know what this one is. So I think the only thing we can do is remove this exhaust assembly here, and if we have to, I guess we'll have to pull the motor, but I'd like to just pull this out and then hopefully I can figure out what's going on. But this is in the way right now. I can just show you what's going on here. I think to make this easy, I could probably just pull these bolts here, pull this clamp here, pull this off, and then I can pull 2 bolts that are bolting this part of it onto the back of the motor, and then on the back there is a clamp that I can loosen up, and then I think I can just pull that right out of there. It's been a while since I've had any of this stuff pulled off. And also, this is a little different than the ones I've worked on, but it's pretty similar.
Small. This acid berry is too small. I'll go find the big one.
Okay. Well, I don't see any cracks or anything on this. There's this T right here, and I think that might be the culprit. So unfortunately, the jug is cracked. The guy said it was because he didn't winterize it. I suppose that could be the case, but I think I'm guilty of that too, and I never had a cracked jug before. All right, so let's do a quick recap here. This jet ski appears like it should be ready to go. But what I've been doing is finding whatever has the biggest problem and working on that. So that one starts, it runs, but I haven't put it in the water yet, so I don't know. I also put that on a hose. It doesn't seem to leak. So I think it's ready to at least test on the water. This one definitely has some obvious problems with the cylinder having cracks on it. So we definitely gotta get that fixed. The cracks are in an area that aren't seeing any pressure, maybe 15 psi or so of water pressure, but that's about it. So I might be able to fix that without buying anything. I might be able to JB weld it. Also, this one was not charging, but since I put the rectifier in there, now it charges. Everything starts, it starts and charges. I put new oil lines on it. But this has all got to come back apart again because I need to figure out what's going on with the back of that cylinder. I know there's at least one crack. It looks like there might be 2 or 3 though. So I could get a new jug for it, but at this point, I'm gonna see if I can fix this without anything but just some JB weld. I know it's not the right way, but it's the end of the season. I wanna get at least one ride in on these things before the total end of the season, and then we can work on it throughout the winter and maybe put a new jug on there and do other things. But for right now, I just want to test it out and see if there's any other problems with it. And I've seen where other people have done JB weld on that crack before, so I'm going to attempt it myself. And half of me is doing this for you guys to see if it'll work, and half of me is doing it just to kind of get by and check for other problems on this machine. So let's just go ahead and see if we can just pull that one cylinder. And I know the base gasket is one gasket that goes between the two of them. Hopefully I can pull it out in a way where that gasket stays intact. If not, maybe I'll order a new gasket and cut it in half and put it on just that one base. Let's just pull this exhaust out of here, and then I should be able to just pull the head off and then pull the cylinder out. You know, I should probably pull apart these carburetors, check the pop-off pressure, clean them out, do the whole works, but everything seemed to be working fine, so we're gonna leave that alone for now. That can again be during the winter time. I can do that. You can also see the crack right there. I think the only thing on the back that I need to worry about is that T. Yeah, see, I just pulled that out and there a bunch of water just came out, so something's not draining right. This T right here is like full of water still. So something's clogged up somewhere. Because that's why this cracked, is that it wasn't able to drain out this. So when I was looking back there with the camera, it looked like this was a crack here and this was also a crack here, but it may not be. I think that's just like there was some paint that flaked off and somebody respray painted it and it kind of looks like a crack, but I think the only crack we have is this one right here. I don't even know if you can see that, but it's right there. And it stops right there. So I don't know. It looks like there's a good chance we could fix this. I'm a little bit worried about on the top where this gasket seals. I guess this is a head gasket. A little bit worried about that. But I think if we can just seal it up to that point, then I think the gasket will seal it the rest of the way in that groove. So I'm going to take a Dremel and just gouge out that. We'll clean it up real good and put some JB Weld on it. And I guess this will be an experiment. It probably took me a half an hour to get this out, so it's not too bad. What we really got to figure out is why this is being clogged up, because this is supposed to drain all the water out of here. It actually says right on it that it's meant for personal watercraft. But that doesn't really make a difference. I'm sure they're talking about the hull or something. But it says it's good for aluminum. And being that this is on the outside of the cylinder and there's a space in between, even if this was ran without any coolant in it, it shouldn't get that hot. Which some of them are rated for a lot higher than this, but... so it says set time is in 5 minutes, cure time is in 1 hour. So we're going to check back in 1 hour and we'll reshape this groove to accept that O-ring, and then we can put this back together. So the drain tube that goes on the back of these cylinders goes down that way, and underneath of everything on the bottom of this hull, going all the way back, and I believe it exits right, where is it? Right there. Yeah, so there's a hole right there. You guys can't see it, but there's a hole right there. So I'm going to take some compressed air and blow that out, and hopefully some junk will come out of there. I don't know, I don't see anything, but I don't know. Well, at least I know it's clear now. So this is all cured and I got the groove all reshaped here. And before I put this back on, I just wanted to make sure that this was clear, because this would be the drain for the coolant here, which would be just water. And I put brake parts cleaner in there to soak, and then I'll push it through with air. But look, the brake parts cleaner is still sitting there. It hasn't moved at all. And I don't see any evidence of it on the other side, so this thing is clogged up. So let me just pull that off of there and see what I can do to free it up. Look at that. That's a rock. There's another rock. There's at least 2 solid rocks from there. Now it's freed up. That was the problem. Put some thread sealant on it. You don't want to use Teflon for stuff like this. I know you're not supposed to reuse the base gasket. There we go.
Oh, on the jetski.
You all ready to go jet skiing?
Yeah, I want jet skiing. No, I'm jet skiing then.
So last night when I got done putting this back together, I went and hooked it up to the water, and immediately I realized that it is still leaking. So it doesn't seem to be leaking where it was before, but it's definitely leaking somewhere on the back side, and it's also now leaking over here too. Maybe I pinched the gasket as I was putting it back. I don't know, but we got to take this exhaust manifold out. This whole exhaust system, we just got to pull it all out and see what's going on again. All right, so what I found, this was the crack that was there before. That's doing good. That wasn't leaking. There's another crack right here, and I put like a little groove in it. This is aluminum, so it's easy to grind it down. I just took my Dremel and just grooved it out, and then also kind of sanded down around it and brake parts cleaner like crazy. And so now I'm gonna put some more epoxy on there, and then that should be good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and try that one on the water right now. That seems to be the better of the two at the moment. So we'll try to see if I can get it in my little jet ski pond over there, and then I know it'll start up, just whether it'll start up on the water or not. We'll see.
Keep going.
I don't know. You should keep going?
At least go until you're dragging the trailer.
The other one doesn't have the plugs in it right now, so I don't want to go too far. How's that bubbling noise?
Probably the machine without the plugs in it.
Well, I don't even think that's really hitting the right now.
Oh, Dad, you got one? Oh, Dad.
That one just broke.
If you push it towards shore, I can catch it. What are you doing?
There was a snake that I kept hitting every time, and I would go by it, and then it would go the other way, and then I'd go by it again, and go the other way.
Oh, I found it! I found it! I found it! Right here! Right here! Right here!
Don't touch it, Noah.
All right, so the jet ski that you saw me riding around was this one. That was the first one I worked on when I got these both home. That was the one that needed the least amount of work. The one that I tore into was that one. But back to this one. One cylinder has 145 psi compression, which is what it's supposed to have. But the mag cylinder here only has about 110 psi. So I'm going to do something very controversial, very experimental. I don't want to rebuild the top end on this right now. First of all, the one cylinder is fine. And the other one and the other cylinder might need some work. But I'm going to try just replacing the rings on it and honing it. And that'll allow me to run it, hopefully, the 1 or 2 times that I go out before it gets cold. I can always lay these up in the wintertime and I can redo both engines, just pull them out and redo everything. But for right now, I spent $30 on rings. I believe for new pistons, it was like almost $300. And for $550, I can get a whole new top end kit, which comes with both cylinders, both pistons, all the rings and seals and everything. And I believe the pistons were $80 a piece. It doesn't make sense for me to buy new pistons right now, because if I get the top end kit, it'll come with the pistons. So if I buy pistons right now, then I'm kind of wasting my money if I end up going with the top end kit. So for $30, I got some rings. We're gonna try throwing them in there and seeing if we can get that compression to raise up. We'll also hone the cylinder down and we'll check it for anything else that we can see while we're in there. But let me just show you what I got here. So you can see it stays right at about 105. And the other cylinder has 145, which is what it's supposed to have. I think brand new they're 150. Here's the other cylinder. That's 145 all day long. So let's pull this in the garage because it's raining now. Let's pull this apart, put those rings in. It should only take like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops. It's not that big of a deal. Oh wow, that piston is shot. Well, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Wow. Okay. Well, that is totally shot. That one's good though. That one's good. Now it looks like we gotta get a whole piston. This base gasket's all shot too, which means I'm pulling off the other cylinder too. Actually, the top ring is completely like half gone. I can't believe this thing was running. It started on the water and everything. Look at that. That's crazy. Well, that would explain the low compression. And that ring is seized in there. I don't know how this got any compression. The top ring is gone. The bottom ring is seized. The piston has grooves that go beyond the rings. Well, there's no point in even doing anything now. I'm gonna just order a new piston. Maybe I'll just order a piston kit, which comes with the rings. That way I have rings for another cylinder. That ring was partially seized on there. I'm just wondering where the shrapnel went to. Might be looking at a lower end on this thing. I wonder why that one looks so much different than that one. I noticed an SBT sticker on the side of these cylinders. So at one point they were rebuilt with a head kit, and it looks like it's painted the same color on the bottom, which I believe this bottom end is going to be rebuilt by SBT. How recent? I have no idea. Probably should have torn this down before I ordered the rings, but oh well. You live and you learn. All right, so the next update I have for you is that this engine, I just checked with the digital caliper, and this is bored over by 1 millimeter, which is, I think, the max you can bore out for these cylinders. So this is definitely a cylinder, piston, and even lower end. I think it's a whole drop-in unit from SBT, and I'm pretty sure that what they do is they always just do a 1 millimeter bore on all of their cylinders, and they just put an oversized piston, oversized rings, and that's that. So it could be as easy as just getting a new piston, new rings, because these are standard rings, so this won't work. That's for 82 millimeter bore, and this is 83. So I could just get a new piston, new rings, and hone this, which I already started honing it. I'm pretty confident. There's a couple little tiny scratches, but they barely catch your fingernail. And I'm pretty confident that I could reuse this cylinder here. But here's the problem that I have with this whole situation. A lot of that shrapnel had to have gone into the bottom end of the engine. I inspected it the best I can from up here, but you really can't see much. I don't see anything in there. Another thing I want to do is just replace this line right here. This is just a vacuum, but I can see it's definitely got holes in it. So that could make it so the carburetor doesn't work that well. So another thing I need to replace is this line right here. This is what they call a tempo line, and that's from the factory, and they've since discovered that that is made out of some really bad materials that will actually kind of erode on the inside, and it'll gum up your carburetors. And if you run lean with one of these carburetors, you'll blow a cylinder. So it looks like somebody already replaced these parts here with some new fuel lines, but the main fuel line going back to the tank is still this gray line, which anybody who's ever owned a Sea-Doo who knows anything about them, they know that that is like the equivalent of a killer dowel pin in a Cummins engine. It's just a design flaw that needs to be changed out. Alright, so this jet ski is kind of out of commission right now. I thought I had it almost ready to go on the water, but I'm having starter issues with it. I ordered another starter, and that one is like junk. So I'm kind of sick of working on this right now, so we're gonna go back to this one. I got the piston and the rings for this. So let's go ahead and install that. This is the one that I tested on the water already. So I had to order oversized pistons and rings. They're over by 1 millimeter. That's what the bore is. It's 1 millimeter over stock. So I ordered an 83 millimeter piston and 83 millimeter rings. So I already honed this out. So let's go ahead and install this. So I already checked for ring gap, and it's calling for 12 thousandths plus or minus 2 thousandths. And I'm a little bit over that because I'm 15 thousandths. So I'm 1 thousandths over what it's supposed to be. But for right now, for this year, we're going to run it. And I think I mentioned this before. We're going to tear everything down and completely restore this jet ski during the wintertime. We're going to redo both of them, really. But for right now, let's just put it together and see how it goes. And as long as the ring gap isn't too small, I don't see how we could do any damage. So a lot of these two strokes, they have a little locator pin, and the gap has to be where that pin is. If it's not, you'll go to compress this ring to put it in the cylinder, and it won't compress all the way because that little pin will be holding the ring out like it is right now. So squeeze it together, and you can hear that little click. That's it clicking over top of that pin. So the lower ring and the upper ring both have one. One right there and one right there. I got to take off this other cylinder here because I got to replace the base gasket. You can see it's no good. But you should just replace it anyways, even if it's good. psi all day. That was the cylinder that we repaired. That was the one with the bad piston. Now I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from people because I didn't figure out exactly why the piston did what it did, and I understand that. And it could have been a carburetor not working right and leaning out the engine. I get that that's going to be a problem moving forward, and I need to figure that out. It most likely wasn't the oil line, but honestly guys, it's like the middle of September. I just want to get like 1 or 2 rides out of this thing. And what did it cost me? $100 for the piston and rings and a couple hours. If it happens again, it happens again. It is what it is. I'm already gonna either sleeve out the cylinders or get new cylinders, bore them out, put new pistons and rings in, bring it back to stock, 82 millimeters. I'm already gonna put a new crank in it. I don't see what I really have to lose right here. If I can just ride it for a couple hours and say, hey, this thing works great, it's worth putting this money into to redo the engine completely, then I'm happy with that. So if we can do that with this one, and we can do that with that one, ride them both for a couple hours, I'll be satisfied. And that way I know I can put a little bit of money and time into them and make them completely new again. Because I'm used to the X4 hull. This is a new hull for me, and I think I'm gonna like it. I don't see why I wouldn't, but still, I wanna try it out. All right, so I got both of them to run. One of them didn't run great. You could tell that one cylinder wasn't getting any fuel. That's also the cylinder that had the bad piston and rings in it. So I think at this point what we need to do is pull the carburetors out. We need to clean them out. I would like to say that I could rebuild them, but I did not get a rebuild kit. Stupid thing, I should have gotten that a while ago, but I just didn't for some reason. So I'm just gonna attempt to clean the carburetors the best I can, and hopefully no gaskets come apart when I'm pulling the carbs out, and we'll kind of hope for the best. And it might work. I've done that before, so I should be able to do it again. And by the way, one way that I could tell that the one cylinder wasn't firing was, as I was on the water, I lifted this up and I just felt the side of the cylinder to see how warm it was. This one on the back was very warm. The one on the front was almost cold. So I know it wasn't getting fuel. We know it has compression, just didn't have fuel. So before I destroy the rings and piston again, let's get the carburetor at least cleaned out. There's a fuel filter inside of them. Sometimes that is clogged up. So we'll see, maybe we'll get lucky. All right, so got the carburetors out. You know, it's not easy filming in there. It's just, there's not a lot of places to put a camera. I have a magnet on a lot of my cameras, and there's nothing magnetic in here. But one thing I did notice, on the front carb, which is the one that we were having a problem with, here's the gasket. Now, do you guys see what's going on there? The edge of the carb was right there. Here's the bolt hole. Somebody didn't align this properly when they put it on. I think that there was a small leak, because right there, there's only a 32nd of an inch that's making contact. That's going to seal up the edge. I don't think that's enough. I think this thing was leaking air. And I think that's why it leaned out. We may still have a problem with the carburetor. There may not be enough fuel going through it. But this is kind of a smoking gun right here. You can see that they completely missed where the bolt hole was. So this whole thing was shifted like that instead of like that. So this gasket seems like I can reuse it. I just need to make sure it's in place before I put it back. Also, another thing I noticed, this is things that you need to notice while you're taking things apart. There was a screw on this side to take off. It was a bracket that holds on the throttle cable. That screw was completely stripped out. There was no getting that off with a screwdriver. What I've done, and it's almost always worked, is take a pair of vice grips and put it on there just as tight as you can possibly get it, and then spin it off just like a quarter turn with this, and then it'll come off with the screwdriver. I didn't see any marks on it like somebody did that, so I almost want to bet that somebody went to rebuild this carb or clean it and they couldn't get inside because of that and they just gave up. That happens all the time. That happens more often than you think. People get these machines, they try to work on them, and they just give up so easily. That's usually a good thing for people like me because I come in and I just thoroughly go through and do everything that I need to do and I don't give up. And sometimes that gets me a really good deal on a machine. I'm not saying that the guy I got it from had a problem with that. It was probably somebody before him, because basically the guy I got it from, he said that he rode the one like 1 or 2 times and the other one didn't work. So I don't think he really messed with it. He got it last year. I'm sure he got it for really cheap, but whoever he got it from probably had him for a while, and I'm starting to notice a little bit of a pattern here. No tears in the diaphragm. Needle looks good. Well, looks like this thing was full of water at one point. See if I can get this off of here without it breaking. These things do get pretty brittle. There's a lot of junk in there. That's really not going to affect anything though. Here's a fuel filter right here. No, that's clean as a whistle. No problems there. Yeah, I think, honestly, I think this was just leaning out. It had too much air going to it. All the gaskets look good. There's a little dirt here and there, but it's nothing that's going to prevent anything from running. I remember I also had a problem with pop-off pressure on my first jet ski, and it actually had to be adjusted a lot, and that was one of the reasons why it didn't run. The other one was because it was gummed up, but after I solved those 2 issues, that jet ski has been great. Pop-off pressure is how much pressure it needs in order to open the fuel line to let more fuel in. basically this little arm right here pulsates with the diaphragm from right here, and it hits on here, and every time it pulsates it lets a little bit of fuel in. It's not like a regular carb where you have a bowl on it where it fills up the bowl. It just puts a little bit of gas in every time it pulsates, and which is also pumping the fuel. And I can't remember if the pop-off pressure was too high or too low. I can't remember, but basically it's just an adjustment on a spring. I think this is the spring, if I'm not mistaken. You can stretch it out, or you can compress it a little bit to, well, you can't really compress it, but to change the pop-off pressure. And there's a way that you can test it by putting some pressure to it and seeing how much pressure it takes to pop it off. That's why they call it pop-off pressure. But we're not going to mess with that. Yep, it's just broken right in half.
How are you gonna fix that?
Replace it?
Is this waterproof?
Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, I'm being up. Hi. Is this the good one?
Oh, no. I forgot it says that.
What?
Tips.
I'm going over to the sea.
thing doesn't have no steering when it gets... I cannot believe that I never found out about this place. This is awesome. Not crowded. It's not right out in the middle of the really violent, wavy ocean. It might work, I don't know. This one's iffy.
Exactly. You're not putting your kid on that if it's iffy.
Well, this one was iffy too until I figured out it worked.
Sure.
They were both iffy.
Get off the edge and swim.
All right, guys, well, this was a lot of fun fixing these up, especially since I didn't really pay anything for them. So like I said, I bought these for the trailer. I gave the guy $800 for the trailer with the jet skis. That trailer is worth $800 just by itself. I've actually been looking for a double trailer for a while. I know they're not that hard to come by. It's just I kind of always forget about it because I really needed one. I had like a homemade one before, and I don't really like it. So I just wanted an actual double jet ski trailer. I have a bunch of single trailers, but that's annoying. But the fact that I got these jet skis running and free, that's like amazing. I know that they're older, 97, and I know that the 4-strokes are more reliable, and I should get one. But you know, these things are really fun. These older jet skis are so much lighter and nimble. They're so much more fun to drive than the newer ones. The newer ones are just so heavy, and they're long and they're wide. These ones are just so much smaller. It's just fun driving a smaller jet ski like this. Like, these do get a little bit tipsy when you're driving with 2 people, 2 adults on them anyways. Me and a kid is fine, and me and an adult is fine too, but sometimes if you're both leaning the same direction, it gets a little tipsy. But I've never flipped them, so. But as far as how much money I have into these, I bought a battery for each one, so that's like $115 a piece. I bought some gaskets, I bought a piston and rings, and I think that's it, really. Honestly, I don't think I really bought much more than that. I bought a starter that was like $60, but I ended up actually putting the old starter in. I actually repaired the old starter because the starter that I got for this just was not working at all. I put it in, it was brand new, and it would just not turn this engine over. I think the starter for these machines is the same model as the one that I got, but these are high torque. This engine needs a lot to turn it over. So slipping that old one in there made this jet ski operable again. So I kind of want to do like a total restore on these things, but I don't know, they're running so good. I don't see a reason for that. I should spend time finding a 4-stroke and fixing that one up. I should buy it cheap and fix it up. Maybe even 2 of them, I don't know. The more jet skis I can get for almost nothing, the more people can ride, which is great. Having more people riding is great. Riding by yourself is really kind of risky, unless you're like on a lake where you don't have to worry about it. And there is a lake up north next to our cabin that's like a mile down the road that we can go to, and that lake is awesome to drive these jet skis on. It's got a little island in the middle. It's really nice. So we're gonna take these up there next weekend, and then that's probably it for the year because it's the middle of September already, and it's gonna get cold soon. But it was pretty warm today. It was 80. So I guess that's it for this video, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.